When you are feeling flooded, when you are feeling overwhelmed, the best thing that you can do is unravel all of the layers that you've placed on yourself, your identities, the ways in which you appear in the world, you be in the world, the ways in which you lead in the world. Ask yourself, how are you leading yourself? How are you allowing your own cup to be full? Why is hearing your own voice an art? Why am I describing that as an art? Art in and of itself is something that requires patience. It requires softness. It requires persistence. It requires slowness. It requires the ability to listen. Art will always stand in the rebellion of the man-made pressures of this world because it coincides with the natural rhythm of this world, which we have built so many structures against. We have to remember that instinctively we know how to have fun. We knew how to have fun and giggle and laugh and be and dance and express and emote and cry long before we knew how to overthink, worry, or pedantically spiral about something. It is deep within our nature to know how to create. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Figuring Shit Out. I am Vanessa Fontana. I am your host, and if you're new here, Figuring Shit Out is a collective undertaking on navigating confusion, coming of age, and a guide for those in their journey of inner awakening and self-discovery. In a world of so much noise, this episode is a way for you to come back to your own inner voice. This episode is going to give you steps to taking back your power when you have lost it in the distraction of the day-to-day world, when you've lost it to dopamine addiction. This is for anyone who feels like they have abandoned their autonomy by giving away their attention. This is an invitation back home to yourself. I want to begin this episode with a quote by Max Ehrmann. "Oh, placidly amid the noise and haste, remember what peace there may be in silence. Amid the noise and haste, remember what peace there may be in silence." A big part of figuring shit out is understanding how to consciously move through this world while still being connected to it. Not having to completely disconnect, not having to completely take a total step back, go across the world, quit your job in order to move through this world and feel a sense of conscious awareness about the way in which you do. And that can be a challenge with so much online, like this podcast, for instance, that is meant to better us. We can trick ourselves into thinking that our consumption is a direct extension of our desire to improve, when really it's just another avenue of avoidance. And so many of us go through the cycles and cycles of scrolling and over-consuming and listening to the podcasts and reading the books and doing everything that we can to fill our brain with so much noise without even realizing that even good noise is still noise. And the only reason that you ever feel resonance with anything is because it brings you back to the truth of who you are. And that was never something that could be given to you. That was always yours. And so let this episode really remind you of that. And also, if you are feeling flooded, if you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed by the state of the world, join the club. Allow yourself to come back to center as I guide you through the art of hearing your own thoughts, your own voice, and then maybe take some space after this episode to follow the steps I'm going to give you. Okay, so firstly, this episode was inspired because I have been feeling very, very flooded, very overwhelmed, very energetically dense. This all started for me when I realized that a big part of my purpose is holding space, creating space for people to hold space for themselves. And I am navigating the ways in which I am going to show up in the world to do that. I am on the last rounds of this program that I built called The Road Less Travelers. And this program was essentially a way for you, the audience, the participant, the person on the other end, to rediscover themselves, rediscover their own unity within themselves through different modalities of energetic healing and also somatic healing, inner psyche and parts work. And I blended all of these things together into a 5-week container, a 5-week curriculum where people could then connect with each other, connect with me, go through the materials, podcast episodes, meditations, assignments, activities, building community along the way. I capped it at a small number of people per round because I wanted to build intimacy within the groups. And this has been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life, to truly watch people change as a result of what I've created, as a result of what I knew, as a result of the experiences that I had being then translated into these materials. And it was a really fun thing for me to do as well, because when I was in corporate America, what I did was build programs, breaking down really complex concepts into digestible pieces that people could understand. And so I basically just took that framework of building a program from start to end that was meant to help people learn. And I put it into the context of all the things that I'd learned in yoga teacher training, all the things that I'd learned in my journey of leaping off the cliff, quitting my job and going to the other side of the world, all the things I've learned by building a charting podcast in the last 2 years, all the things I've learned in facing my fears and showing up in the world, and in my exploration of energy work and somatic healing and EMDR and therapy, and everything that I've learned, essentially, I've packaged it into this program. And I offered it as an offering for 5 weeks for others. We are on the very last round. There might still be one spot left. You could have a chance to join. It's the last time I am going to be doing this. And that's kind of why I'm telling this story as well, because while this work has been so rewarding, it was definitely something that I just took a leap in figuring out if it was something I wanted to do. And while I've done it, I've met the people who are on the other side of this microphone, who have listened to this podcast and who have invested their lives into figuring shit out full time in a way. And it's been so beautiful to watch them transform, to watch them blossom, to watch them change and grow and connect to each other and to build those connections from across the world. But it has also been a lot of space held for other people. It has also been an entire new journey of opening myself up energetically to opening up other people's energetic portals as well, or to rather, I should say, helping them open them up. That is what I've been doing. And that is what has been flooding me a little bit, because not only have I been running these programs and taking these people through these transformations and creating these materials for every group, by the way, everything is completely unique and curated, which is why I am on the last round. I'm taking a big break from it. I've also had a very fun new opportunity come in that I will talk about a little bit later, but I know that it's time for me to step into a different type of leading and guiding. And I know that this was part of that path. But with all of this to say, I was leading these programs, building these programs, understanding what these programs were doing for people on the other end, testing them, analyzing them so that I could build future programs, and programs that maybe aren't as in-depth or as intense, but still offer support for the audience on the other side. And understanding what the business of figuring shit out really looks like, and if it's more service-based or if it's more creative-based, if it's more media-based, and really going through the process of all of that. On top of that, building and growing my audience, building and growing this podcast, building and growing and building and growing and building and growing. And oh my goodness, there's just so much happening, and I'm not even listening to myself. I'm doing all of these things. I am pouring, and I'm realizing, oh, my cup is empty and I am flooded and I have no space. I've been holding a lot for other people. Maybe I've kind of forgotten how to do it for myself. And it always feels like whenever I get to that place of being a little burnt out, I think I need a whole week. I think I need a whole day. I think I need to take a season away from the podcast and come back into myself. I get very melodramatic about it, but then I realize, no, actually, all I need is about 30 minutes of uninterrupted time on the floor. And the only way that I can realize that is by giving that time to myself on the floor. And we'll get to why being on the floor is really important in just a moment. But essentially, I found myself really flooded, really overwhelmed, knowing I needed the time alone. And that's a big thing. You got to know the telltale signs. For me, I don't want to respond to anyone. I want to be left alone. I feel flooded. I get really reactive and snappy. And that's when I know my cup is empty. I cannot pour. I cannot give. I need to give to myself. I need to replenish. And so I took a radical day of being on my own, being by myself, getting off my phone completely for the whole week, but particularly this day, and really just reclaiming my own autonomy over myself and my life. And what I realized in this was that I thought I was going to need the whole day, but really it only took about 30 minutes. And the steps that I took to get here are steps that I take often when I need to hear my own voice and I forget what it sounds like. And sometimes when we forget what our own voice sounds like, we think that we've lost it, but this is not true. This is not the case. What happens instead is that we have just covered it up. The noise has it caved in on us, so we can't identify it, but it's never truly gone. And it doesn't take much more than just like at the end of the day, when you take your clothes off and you take a shower because you've had a really long day and then you feel a little bit better, you feel a little bit cleaner, you feel a little bit more renewed. It's the same thing. You just take some layers off, you shower energetically, you create space for something new to emerge, and you realize that it was never that deep, it was never that serious, and you are now able to hear your own voice. I'm going to read you something that I actually wrote on my typewriter when I was in the midst of reclaiming my own autonomy. I created this list of things to do to get back to yourself and hear your own voice, because in this process, I just realized how easy it actually was to do so. So I'm going to read this to you, and it is going to take us through this episode. The art of hearing your own thoughts and your own voice in a world of so much noise is truly a strength to cultivate. In a world that demands so much of our attention, you may be under the impression that you need a retreat, ample time flowing through the trails of nothingness, to leave your profession and to run to the other side of the world to start a new life, just to reset your dopamine-driven, flooded brain and frozen nervous system. But it's quite powerful what a little unraveling can do, a little intention, a little play. Just like riding a bike, you never truly forget how to listen to yourself. It may take a moment to get a feel for the seat again, to allow your legs to flow within the trails of traffic, to remember the rhythm of the pedals, but you never forget. I find that it takes but 30 minutes of uninterrupted time with myself, the act of allowing boredom to strike, to come back. Before we outline the steps, let's get something straight. We cannot be afraid of boredom. Boredom is the dark room where the light emerges. Boredom is where everything is birthed. Boredom is the gestation, the darkness before the deep illumination. We must not be afraid of boredom. We must cease reaching or extending the hand to wash away the calcified backdrops of someone else's recycled opinion with more recycled opinions and echo chambers that never change. We must be willing and able to allow ourselves to feel the distant pull towards a mindless mind and seeing just where it may wander. This is the second prerequisite. We must not only be willing and able to let the discomfort of boredom in, but we must be willing and able to sit inside of the uncertainty where it may bring us and turn the floundering nerves inside of us into joy, discovery, and excitement. We can call this seeing what may happen. Emphasis on the may. The May is filled with possibilities. May, both the word and the month that heralds spring, brings newness in its stable colors and reminds us of the steady joy promised at the other end of stillness. The third prerequisite is to make space for the space to be filled with something other than what you put into it. Once space is created, it is never long before it finds a new shape to hold itself in. The beauty about space is that it is ever changing and always allowing, and it is contained to nothing, yet it is always within everything. When we fill our minds with constant dialogue and racing distraction, we give the space within us no room to be itself, and we give curiosity no freedom to prance about, deciding who it wants to be in any given moment. So now that we have our prerequisites, 1, expecting, allowing, and embracing boredom. 2, sitting inside of the possibility of what may happen. And 3, making the space for space to find a new shape. Then we can begin the very first step. All it takes is to come back to ourselves and hear our own voice. Is 30 minutes of uninterrupted time. But this is not just any uninterrupted time. This is the unraveling. It all begins with the unraveling, not the doing, not the accomplishing, the unraveling. Step 1, set the scene. Shut your phone off and put it into another room. If you would like to play music from it, do so. Choose the playlist and then put it on airplane mode. And if you can, connect it to a speaker and put your phone in another room. This is very, very important. Get the gargoyles that live inside of that phone and put them inside of a cage for 30 minutes, at least. Make the addict in your brain sit in silence for just a little bit and acknowledge that it's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable. This is part of the creation of our space. We must remove what takes away our space from us. Step 2, creating a creativity cave. What is a creativity cave? Prepare by getting on your floor. I could create an entire podcast episode just about why it's important that as adults we sit on the floor. I firmly, firmly believe this, that sitting on the floor is our way back to ourselves. So you will be sitting on the floor for this, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Get your floor ready with a pillow, a blanket, a candle lit in the background, some pen, some paper, artistic tools to surround you, perhaps an instrument, perhaps paintbrushes, colored pencils, highlighters, pens, whatever makes you feel held. For me, it's my journal, my typewriter, my highlighters, my pens, maybe a book that inspires me, a big floor pillow, and a blanket underneath, and then some lo-fi jazz music. Put in my noise-canceling headphones and a cozy outfit that makes me feel buttery and makes me feel soft. I like to sit cross-legged, crisscross applesauce, as they used to say. Brings me back to my youth. The floor is such an important part of this because our earliest memories of play happened on the floor. Sitting crisscross applesauce, raising our hands in class. Lean into this as a place of play. This is one of our easiest portals back to art and our childhood self. Step 3 is sensory reclamation through a snack that you eat with your hands. Something light, something that brings you some joy. You will eat this on the floor while sitting inside of your creativity nook, your creativity cave. Eat this mindfully. Eat it with your hands. Let it take you back to the essence of your youth. Do not go on your phone. Your phone should be in another room already. Look around as you eat. Feel the sensation as you eat. Make the noises, the oohs, the ahs, the ums, and let your senses come back alive. Let them envelop you. Allow yourself to open into this experience. Step 4, boredom as a portal. Okay, so you're done eating now. What do? Before reaching for the next thing, sit and observe. Take in your surroundings. Let boredom strike. See which of your tools that you've laid out for yourself you feel called to. Step 5, create what has been waiting. Whether this be an unraveling of your inner thoughts and inner world or some play, let this lead you where it wants to take you. Doodling, scribbling, drawing, stomping, shaking, dancing. What is coming up? Do you feel the urge to let something out? Whether that be verbally, vocally, with your body, with your written words, with scribbles. Let your boredom lead. What happens when you shut off the noise, even for a little bit? Do not overthink this. Overthinking is the last thing that you should be doing during this. And if you don't know where to start, grab a journal and write the prompt, what I really want to say is, and let that unraveling take you where it wants to take you. And step 6, after you've unraveled and you've spent the 30 minutes or more, maybe you've had so much fun that you've spent more time. That's the hope here. After you've done that, bonus, walk yourself through the world as you are open, as you are clear, and start to see what emerges as you take this openness with you out into the world. Realize that you have just unraveled. Realize that you have recovered some of your own voice. Realize how much quieter it feels inside of you. Realize that you've just practiced art. If you have time to seal this with a walk, I suggest it without music, without your phone, and seeing where this walk takes you, allowing it to lead you into the next place, feeling what it feels like to be in rebellion to the constant cacophony around you, to walking with your phone, to checking notifications, to pairing and layering your life with the need to do. See what happens when you stop that. And notice how time stretches when you are not distracted. Notice what 30 minutes alone can do for you. We have to remember that instinctively we know how to have fun. We knew how to have fun and giggle and laugh and be and dance and express and emote and cry long before we knew how to overthink, worry, or pedantically spiral about something. It is deep within our nature to know how to create. It is deep within our nature to make ourselves busy with the beauty of wandering through the circuits of potential and possibilities, of seeing what just may happen. In these steps, we remember ourselves. We remember that this is innate. We notice that it doesn't actually take much at all to clear this space within us. We allow ourselves the time and space to unravel, the boredom to sit, strike, to welcome it in, and we flow when it does. We notice the space and we see that it has always, always been ours. I come back to this realization time and time again that it really does not take much. A day off my phone, a day more focused on the beat and rhythm and tenderness of my own heart, a day without the arbitrary pressures that I always realize are just so arbitrary. It is so simple because it is so innate. In a world of trends and aesthetics, there is something so perfect about your own way of doing things, about your own curation, and so rebellious because inspiration strikes when something within you has been allowed to move through space that you create. This is why the artist's way is the spiritual path, because it is never about the end result. It is always about the creation, the pursuit of wholeness through the act of creation, through the filling of your own cup. No matter how small, is our portal to divinity. So if you feel empty, I ask you, what are you filling your life up with? What are you filling your cup up with? We have our steps. So you have your little ritual. But now we're going to talk a little bit about how the art lives within us and how dopamine hijacks us and why this even happened. Hearing your own voice and actually being able to move with it, act with it, are very different things. And in a world where we are driven by trends and aesthetics and calling everything a thing instead of just allowing ourselves to explore and be, we have to put all of these labels on it and box it in with all of these trends like the clean girl aesthetic or boho chic or mob wife aesthetic or thought daughter, which I identify as. I call myself a thought daughter. I call you guys thought daughters, even if you are not a daughter, even if you don't identify as a girl or as a daughter, it's a term of endearment. So just take it. Thought daughter, THOUGHT, is someone who really enjoys the esoteric, introverted nature of words and things and poetry and understandings about life, and who likes to think deeply and feel deeply and understand themselves more and likes to introspect and be more self-aware in their lives and apply that self-awareness to see how that self-awareness then unravels. And that, I think, for the most part, is a lot of you guys in figuring shit out. You guys listening are my fellow thought daughters, and I am, I guess, your thought mother. I like that. Okay, anyways. All of these aesthetics, right? And it's so easy to go down the rabbit hole and be like, yes, that's me. That's the one I want. But this is just validation for our ego. This is just the way that our ego thrives. Our ego thrives in identification. Our ego thrives in being able to see ourselves as something in the world. Our ego thrives when we are validated, when we are seen, when we feel approved by inside of something, and we can approve ourselves inside of something by identifying with it and taking on its traits and its personality. But in that, we actually abandon our true selves. We forget ourselves because we forget that the most beautiful thing that we can be, for the sake of sounding cheesy, really is ourselves. The coolest person we could be is ourselves. The funniest person that we can be is ourselves, stripped back, uninhibited, and allowed to move freely and be freely. But instead, we cover ourselves up with all of these aesthetics and these trends and these ways of being and doing in the world that are approved and that look cool and look a certain way and give off the impression of something, but are actually just empty circuits into a path that feels recycled, into a life that feels empty, that feels uninspired, into art that has been created again and again and again and is just a carbon copy of itself. It's not even really art. And what we find is that hearing our own voice is so hard, and all we do is live in the escape of these identities. And so I'm not saying that building a Pinterest board is going to lead you into emptiness, but I would caution you to notice the ways in which you allow trends, you allow these curated ways of life to box you in, and in what ways you are taking away your own spirit by succumbing to them or trying to be like them. The whole point of this is that when you are feeling flooded, when you are feeling overwhelmed, the best thing that you can do is unravel all of the layers that you've placed on yourself, your identities, the ways in which you appear in the world, you be in the world, the ways in which you lead in the world, quote unquote, lead in the world, and ask yourself, how are you leading yourself? How are you allowing your own cup to be full? Why is hearing your own voice an art? Why am I describing that as an art? Art in and of itself is something that requires patience. It requires softness. It requires persistence. It requires slowness. It requires the ability to listen. And art is something that is innate within all of us. You guys have heard me talk about it a million times. The book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, a 12-week course on creativity. It absolutely changed my life when I did it. And I'm actually going to be leading Artist's Way circles very, very soon. There's going to be opportunities to join an Artist's Way community where we do the Artist's Way together over 12 weeks. And there are going to be weekly calls on the themes of the Artist's Way. You're going to have a chance to connect to other artists on their path. You're going to have a chance to connect to other community members and really be in the group chat and the connection of figuring shit out in a new way. The book is not provided. You do have to get the book. The reason that I'm doing this is because so many people have told me I've started The Artist's Way, or I have The Artist's Way, or I never finished The Artist's Way. And, you know, it's a great book and I started reading it, but I never finished it. And I cannot count how many people have not finished this book. And honestly, I would be one of them if I didn't have a partner to do it with. I did it last year with my boyfriend at the very beginning of the year, and it changed my life. It is part of the reason why I was able to run the marathon that I did, which I barely even trained for. It is part of the grand realization that I had in wanting to pursue this podcast and my creativity full time, and realizing that I needed to leave my corporate job and that I had to take off that identity in order to be who I wanted to be. It is part of my own artistic reclamation. Before this book, I was unable to call myself an artist. Before this book, I was unable to fully see myself as a creative. I had so many creative wounds, and this book literally opened them completely up for me and allowed me to heal in a brand new way. And I feel like it's time for me to do it again. So because I want to do it again, I want to do it with you guys. So if you are interested in joining this Artist's Way circle, it will be 12 weeks of calls, connection, group chat, us holding each other accountable, a really strong anchor point for us all to be together. You can click the link in the description and you will be able to sign up for a mailing list, and you will get the first access to it. And I'm going to be co-creating with you guys in this process because I'm going to be doing it as well. So I'm very, very, very excited for this. So if you are interested in it, sign up for that mailing list. Without further ado, The Artist's Way is the most supreme divine path, whether I'm talking about the book or just living your life as an art, because art is instinctively and inherently rebellious. Art goes against the grain of everything because art allows us the space to move within the rhythms of life instead of adhering to the noise, to the clenchedness, and to the cacophony that is existing all around us all the time, and all of the things that want to take us away from ourselves. The scrolling, the dopamine, the constant hits, the decisions that we have to make every single time we walk out our door, and we have a bunch of them to choose from. Art allows us to slow down in a world that is so, intense, that moves so fast. Maybe this is partly inspired because I live in the center of noise. I live in New York City, which is just such a beautiful backdrop to figuring shit out, because here I am grounding into my own state of being, building community, building belonging in this chaos, a city where everything exists and nothing exists, a city of so many different parts and places and people and things of all different natures. How do you find a grounding in that? That is so much of what figuring shit out is about. But art in and of itself refuses that urgency. It listens. And what are we talking about? We're talking about listening. And so listening in and of itself to yourself is an art. Art will always stand in the rebellion of the man-made pressures of this world because it coincides with the natural rhythm of this world, which we have built so many structures against. So you can have that realization and choose that, or you can have that realization and choose to be in the passive surrender of, I guess this is just how it is. This is where a lot of us wind up. We wind up just scrolling away the day when we're feeling flooded. We wind up feeling like we have no motivation to do anything because our dopamine baseline is so low. But we don't have the autonomy. We don't have the ability for motivation because we are constantly flooding ourselves with dopamine. So it's much harder for us to create it. And therefore, it is much harder for us to sustain it. Dopamine works like this. Dopamine is our brain's reward chemical. It is responsible for motivation. But modern technology hijacks it with overstimulation. So every single time you get a notification, every single time you scroll, every single time you check your phone, you get a spike in dopamine. But the more that your dopamine spikes, especially with fake dopamine, a notification, a like is not real dopamine. That is fake. That is your brain saying, oh, this is a sense of validation, this is a sense of purpose, but it doesn't actually give you anything. It's empty. Every single time it spikes, the baseline dulls. And then this dulling of our baseline makes life feel really boring. It makes nothing feel meaningful. It makes everything feel kind of like a means to an end, even though in stillness and in the things that can give us dopamine, that is where clarity lives. Dopamine is the pathway to pleasure, and it can be derived from sleep, from eating, from exercising, and from stillness and meditation. And so our phones and the world in which we live is a natural antithesis to that sense of stillness. I know what you're thinking, like, how do I increase my dopamine baseline? How the hell do I get off my phone? I feel so addicted to it. You're not going to like this answer, but you need to set boundaries with it. You need to realize that this thing is controlling your life and you need to put it in a different room for part of the day. You need to take it away from you. You obviously can't really live without it in this world, but you need to create boundaries with it and you need to hold yourself accountable. There is this TikTok that I saw, and I'll link it in the description below, but it was this girl talking about how to naturally increase your baseline after you've been so disconnected from your dopamine. And it's funny because this is on TikTok. And so I saw it while I was scrolling on TikTok while I was literally dulling my baseline. It was on how to increase your baseline. It made me get off TikTok, but it said a couple of things that I'm going to give to you now. One of them was to stop starting the day with decisions, creating a decision-free morning, and basically waking up and like knowing what your morning is going to look like, not having to decide anything, not having to be like, am I going to meditate? Am I going to exercise? Am I going to do anything? No, have a routine, have something that you follow, have something that makes you feel good, especially for the first hour of the day. If you are reaching for your phone during the first hour of the day, you are training yourself for that dopamine spike immediately, and you are not even giving yourself the opportunity to create it naturally. And that is going to keep you more and more dependent on it. And so for that first hour of the day, if you can take away the decision, if you can take away the need to check anything, you can just move slowly and allow yourself to come into your body. You will be able to create a lot more space for something new to emerge. The second thing that she said that really stuck out to me was stop layering your pleasures. So no phone and eating, no Netflix or Love Island and being on on your phone at the same time. Like, choose one, especially with these highly dopaminergic things like your phone or like Love Island. If you are going to watch Love Island, do it with other people. Create a sense of belonging. Be able to talk about it with them, but get off your phone. Stop just scrolling on TikTok and consuming more Love Island while you're watching Love Island during the commercials of Love Island. I haven't even watched this season and I know everything that's happening because it is all over my TikTok. So you need to be aware of the ways in which you are not even aware of how you are layering your pleasures and disconnecting yourself from your own sense of dopamine. These devices are literally wired for our attention to be taken from us. You have to realize that they are not designed to help you be a creative, artistic, spiritually inclined and open individual. They are inclined to keep you numb, and they're inclined to keep you away from your rebellion in having your own critical thought, in thinking, and being able to understand more about the world through yourself and to create your own unique ideas. Because when we create our own unique ideas, when we think critically and logically, we start challenging the system and the way that things are. We start challenging things, and that's when, the big they don't like that very much. Okay, anyways, it is not that we lose our voice. It is that the noise caves in on it. And we have so much power and so much autonomy and so much responsibility over our ability to see ourselves as the creator of our day. You don't have to wake up and reach for your phone. And if you do, what if you reached for your phone and then went to the meditation app? What if while you laid in bed, you put your headphones in and instead of scrolling, you decided to come back into your body. You decided to use this device to give you something better. And if you are listening to this podcast episode on a walk or in the background, congratulations, because you are using your phone for something to pour into yourself, for something that is allowing you to go deeper into your experience of life rather than take you away from it. So applause there. You're already doing something good, but realize that you have this choice in every single moment and set the boundaries. You have to set those boundaries and you have to decide who you want to be. And if who you want to be is the type of person who is always constantly flooded with information and cannot sit and be alone with themselves. All of this to say that you do not have to go off grid to reclaim your own autonomy and authority. Remember the steps, the 6 steps. Remember that you just have to create the space for your own signal to get strong again. I'm going to end this episode with another thing that I wrote on my typewriter when I was exploring my own voice. And I wrote this as a letter to myself when I was feeling really murky and really uninspired because, again, I was flooded, as we all are, going through this world. Oh, my darling, it really is not about the outcome. It really is about the urge and the listening to that urge. It really is about the space where you honor the call inside of you long enough to listen to it. It really is about the act. It is not about the doing. It is always about the being. But my darling, oh my darling, it really is as simple as sitting at the typewriter and having enough courage to see what emerges. It really is about the bravery of moving on, of not needing it to be perfect, not needing it to be right. This is not performance. This is learning how to breathe. This is learning how to be. This is creating a ritual of artistic play and poise and imperfection, of words meant to be written because of the act of their existence in the dome of you. Oh, my darling, I love you. Oh, my darling, you are so silly for thinking it is about how it turns out. You are so silly for thinking you're in charge of anything at all other than your presence and your being inside of the thing. Whatever the thing is, that is all that matters, your presence and your beingness. Flutter your heart. Write the world. Fall in love with the punch of the letters and listen to them sing to you. Let them sing to you. Oh, my darling, it was never about how it ends. That was a little letter that I wrote to myself when I was struggling to typewrite. I kept messing up and I really just wanted it to be perfect and I didn't know what to write about. But then I was like, this is about having fun. It's always about having fun. And reclaiming our own autonomy is about realizing that that is an option and a choice that we have in any single moment. So to tie it all together, you have that power, you have that choice. And I hope that this episode brought you deeper into that. And it's going to inspire you to take some time away from the constant noise that you're flooding yourself with and connect inwards to yourself so that you can give back in whatever way is most true to you. And so that you can start to become more and more aware of the ways inside of you that you are needing more and to become more attuned to that little resonance. So without further ado, let's end this episode with a beautiful deep breath. Breathing in, standing tall wherever you are, inhaling, allowing your lungs to expand, and sighing it out. I think I'm going to begin and end every figuring shit out episode with that, because let's just come back. Let's come back to the knowing and the truth of who we are time and time again. And in the understanding that who we are is not that far away. Underneath all the noise, it is not that far away. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you liked this episode, leave me a comment. Let me know how it made you feel. Sign up for the mailing list to join the Artist's Way Circle. Follow the podcast on Instagram, rate it on your preferred streaming platform. Stay up to date with news with the newsletter below as well. And thank you so, so much for listening and sharing your Sunday with me, or whatever day of the week it is. I love you so much. And remember, if you spend your whole life trying to get your act together, you don't have a life, you have an act. So go and live your fucking life. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.